questions that raised. I think, yeah, Leo, you have to do it first.
When you say homeowners during addition or large gut renovations, does that have to be a primary residence or can it be secondary?
This one does have to be a primary residence. I can double check that, but I'm almost certain this one has to be a primary. Most of these 75% envelope upgrade type programs do have to be primary residence. So this one, I believe, does as well. So go ahead.
If you had an audit done at the front end, presumably by a BPI or PERS rated auditor, could you go back and retroactively apply for this? I'm not aware of this, having completed a...
In some cases you can. I'd have to research this one in particular to see if that was the case.
That's a very good
But
question.
in some cases you can.
And how many years has it been in effect?
This one I would have to check on as well. This one's relatively new. So I'm thinking 2007, 2008. But I'd have to double check that one just to make sure. Go ahead.
Wouldn't, kind of piggybacking on that conversation, is that if you went in and did a HERS rating and the certificate that you were able to issue was under the Energy Star standard or better, that should qualify because the improvements created the ceiling and the envelope.
That's correct in most cases. So if you plan your, if you plan your improvement correctly at the front end, you'll get all of these rebates, including an Energy Star certification at the end. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, Jim O'Neill, You'll Find Builders. This really interests me because, I'm trying to push the foam and the icing as opposed to the fiberglass insulation. And the costs of those two are quite different.
Mm-hmm.
And so a couple of questions. Where does the money come from? Where the rebate comes from? And how much of a percentage does the rating certification take away from the credit?
Well, in this case, this is a mass program, so it comes from the state. In terms of funding year after year, I'd have to look into that to check, because normally these things are automatically updated, but given the current status, you can never be too sure about that. Because some of these I know we'll get to in a second in this year, so they haven't been reviewed. Yeah, some of these programs are. And your other question was in terms of how much goes to the rater.
Yeah.
It depends on the rater, really, and whether you want to apply this to the rating process. So it could if you have sort of a sleazy rater, it could be a significant amount of this, or it could be a pretty small amount, depending on the company and everything. I'd say ours would be very small compared to this.
Well, yeah, but the concern is that, well, okay, yeah, I'm saving $2,000, but how much is the rater? So
yeah,
the rate's
exactly.
$1,000 now.
And that's the big question. It's something that people should be researching, shop around for raters and everything. So,
Chris,
go ahead.
I wanted to ask about the relationship with the bank with Seaport Credit Union. If you're doing the EEMs, what kind of ratings are you using to verify the upgrades? Are you that far yet?
No, we're not that far. And that's part of the problem when we're doing our research, is that a lot of the questions you're asking, they're not answered anywhere.
Yeah.
So in order for us, and again, obviously we're relatively small, but if like a TD Bank North or Citizens is not getting involved in this because of, it's just so complicated, there's just no possible way for us to become involved. It just become literally back to the 5 pages I was mentioning earlier, it was single space, and each line had something that we as a credit union had to do. It just was way beyond our expertise.
Okay. Go ahead, Paul.
I just want to make a point about what the gentleman from O'Neill Fine Builders said about the idea that maybe you're burning up a lot of that $2,000 for the HERS rater. In the case of an addition, you're enjoying the benefit of the HERS energy model for the entire structure, not just for that addition. The equation might be a little bit different for gut rehab, but for an addition, you're going to get the benefit for the whole house. So I think there's definitely incentive to do that.
To kind of piggyback on what you're saying, you're actually getting a double dip though, because not only are you getting this credit, is that you're also paying for the energy audit in your energy bills. That there's a year or probably less than a season payback off of what his fee is if you're able to get a low HERS rate. You know, I mean, that's immediate dollars coming back in your pocket.
Let me jump through some more of these programs so we can get some exposure to some of the other stuff, and we'll come back to all the other questions here. This is the Mass Save Energy Efficiency Program. This is another 75% rebate up to $2,000. This one is through utilities, so you have to be a National Grid customer or an Instar customer, or actually Bay State. I think Bay State's part of this, if anyone's Bay State's. So, yeah, you basically have to be, you know, someone who's part of like a municipal utility, like Marblehead, Reading, those kind of things would not apply for this. They wouldn't fall under this program. So that's a little different program. Yet you have to have an energy audit through Mass Save to qualify for these rebates. And the municipal, like I said here, the municipal energy providers usually have their own similar programs. We'll get to an example with Marblehead here in a second that I put up here.
I'm sorry, Chris, can I just add to that? I just found out from National Grid that Mass Save is now covering 100% of the cost for air sealing per se.
Wow.
And they'll work for up to 8 hours in the home.
Wow.
Doing
Okay,
air
see,
sealing.
there you go. It's changing instantaneously there.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Air sealing, which is where you're gonna get the best bang for your buck in energy efficiency. National Grid and the other major investor utilities that are subscribed to the Mass Save program, you know, essentially it's their program, the way they get their energy efficiency program dollars out there into the market. They're subsidizing 100% of the cost of air sealing measures. I believe it's still at a
Yeah, it
$2,000
probably is that
cap.
same program.
Isn't that contingent on you following the recommendations, though? I mean, you have to buy the rest of the recommendations as well, though, right?
You know, I'm not sure. That's a great question, though. I'd have to find out.
I bet on it.
Yeah.
I would bet on that too. But we'll get on.